Government ministers currently in a meeting in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, to talk about the high cost of living in Cameroon. Thanks for joining us on the 6:15 primetime newscast in the English language on Canal International. My name is Gladys Ambodiban. Stay tuned for the headlines. Elements of the National Gendarmerie in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, have succeeded in arresting a supposed murderer. He is or he belongs to a gang of 4 or ex-prisoners of the Condengui maximum prison who have been terrorizing inhabitants of Yaoundé. They were presented to the press today. And as part of efforts to enhance competitiveness of services within the Central African sub-region and the African Continental Free Trade Market, stakeholders are intensifying negotiations in 5 priority service sectors and are developing the regulatory framework. Meantime, 5 government ministers are currently before the press in Yaoundé for a special communication on the high cost of living in Cameroon. And in Bamenda, in the northwest region of the country, persons who lost civil status documents during the current socio-political crisis in the northwest region of Cameroon have been told to go through the courts of law for the re-establishment of the set documents. Those were top stories. Stay tuned for developments. Good evening once again. We begin with the story from the nation's capital, Yaoundé, where an alleged murderer is reported to have fallen in the dragnet of gendarmerie officers in Yaoundé. The presumed murderer is said to be a member of a gang of 4 all ex-prisoners of the Condengui maximum prison who have been terrorizing inhabitants of the nation's capital. They were presented to the press in Yaoundé today, as we hear in this report by Beatrice Ngamo.
Operating for about 2 to 3 years in Yaoundé in a hide-and-seek manner, the murder of a man at the Mokolo neighborhood 2 months ago moved the National Gendarmerie to action. Their investigation revealed they are a gang of 4, all ex-prisoners from Condengui. During the follow-up,
we surprised 4 of them in the Taba, the quarter here in Yaoundé. We surprised 4 of them. Within the exchange of gunshots, we had to arrest 2 of them, and the main leader of the gang is called Minyem Mesak, alias Babo Blanche. I think Babo Blanche should be white beard.
Like the supposed murderer and friend were also.
We seized 1 gun and 4 cartridges, Senhems, Banga, and many other objects that were seized alongside.
Putting an end to such atrocities goes with the collaboration of the population.
Those are the places where these guys operate, and they stay with them. So it is most preferable that we pass to the population, who are already collaborating with us, and we are sure that with this continuous collaboration, we are sure to put an end to all these atrocities caused in the Yaoundé town.
The 2 in gendarme custody will be presented to the court of law, while investigation continues to get the other 2 supposed fugitives.
And there is a cold war brewing between shop owners and mobile vendors selling in wheelbarrows in the Kolbiteng market in Cliquez, in the south region of Cameroon. The shop owners accuse the mobile vendors of making big business at the detriment of their own businesses as they sell without paying taxes. Let's get this report by Regina Leketandak.
It is a busy day here at Kolbiteng Market in Cliquez. The pavements and entrance to shops have all been occupied by those selling different items on wheelbarrows, what is creating disorder and putting those selling in shops in jeopardy.
We that we have shop to pay taxes for the council, but those who are selling inside the wheelbarrow can pay. They pay nothing. We see them selling all over. What we are selling here in the shop, they are selling. Sometimes they used to come and park here in front of me. I'll even fight with them. because I'm driving them away. That I'm paying tax and I'm paying council and nothing. They are paying nothing except they are 100 or 150 francs to the council.
Most of those coming to shop quickly buy from those stations at the roadside, at the detriment of those in shops, what could impact negatively the local treasury.
We have our own personal inconvenience with them because they don't follow the rules and regulations of marketing and the rest. So they sell at any rate because they don't have anything to lose. While we are living under pressure of taxes to sustain the government forum and the finance.
On their part, the mobile vendors who spoke off camera say they can't afford paying rent and taxes for permanent shops and can only sell this way to make ends meet. The vendors here regret, despite numerous complaints to local authorities, their cries seem to have fallen on deaf ears as mobile vendors continue making bricks business.
And as part of efforts to enhance competitiveness of services within the Central African sub-region and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement or Free Trade Market, stakeholders are intensifying negotiations in 5 priority service sectors and are developing the regulatory framework. The experts are currently meeting in Douala, and for 4 days they will equally prepare the list of specific commitments for trade and services. Get that in this report.
Business, financial, communication, transportation and tourism services constitute the 5 priority service sectors of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The committee members overseeing the implementation of the protocol on trade and services are intensifying negotiations to enhance the competitiveness of services and foster domestic and foreign investments. The negotiations are complex as they are expected to address their mode of supply, national treatment, and market access.
In terms of the Central Africa region, they are doing quite well in terms of trade within the 6 CIMAC countries. So we are here to work with them in order to bring them on board at the continental level with their regulations, with their schedule of specific commitment, and with their specificity. So as we do with the 8 regs that the AU has recognized, we are also here to build with them what can be for the benefit of this region.
For 4 days, beginning this August 10, 2022, the experts will prepare Central Africa's list of specific commitments for trade and services in the 5 priority sectors and also work on the development of the regulatory framework.
The 6 member states of CIMAC are much more advanced in the harmonization of their regulations in economic sectors, financial sectors, than we do in the ECAS area. It is better for those member states to consolidate their progresses, waiting the others to come to that stage in some period later.
From the agreement, services offered for the African continental market by the African countries that are WTO members are expected to exceed their service commitments under WTO General Agreement on Trade and Services. It is reported that the African Common Market has the potential to increase intra-African trade by 81% and boost wages by 10% by 2035.
And we have 5 government ministers who are currently before the press in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, for a special communication on the high cost of living in Cameroon. What has the government been doing and what should be done to provide solutions to the difficulties? Hyacinth Chia is standing by at the conference hall and gives us the details. Hyacinth?
4 government ministers before the national and the international press here at the Ministry of Communication this day to give Cameroonians a clear state of things as far as the high cost of living and the difficult economy is concerned. We are talking about the Minister of Communication, the government spokesperson, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Gabriel Mbairobi, as well as the Minister of Trade, Luke Magloire Tangana. And of course, the Minister of Water and Energy Resources, Gaston Elondo Esumba, and equally the Minister of Scientific Research and Innovation, here represented by the Inspector General of the Ministry, all here to give a clear communication on what is going on in Cameroon as far as inflation, high cost of living, the skyrocketing prices of goods and services are concerned. Currently, the Minister of Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, is giving his declaration on the situation. And we should remind that it is just 1 day after the Minister of Trade was before the governors of the 10 regions of Cameroon to give them a clear picture of what obtains in the markets as far as the skyrocketing prices are concerned. And we equally noticed that the governors were given a huge task of making sure the prices are being respected in their respective regions by the market men and women. What is equally coming out from here is that the government has used over 400 billion to subvent some basic commodities in Cameroon since January 2022. We are here talking about fuel, that's petrol, gas oil, super. We're equally talking about the cooking gas, which government says clearly that the market price for cooking gas stands at 14,000 francs. It is thanks to the subventions that Cameroonians continue to buy at 6,500. Same like flour, which government says they have equally reduced the custom duties to the barest minimum. We are waiting for the final declaration to be given here by the 4 government ministers and, of course, the way forward, because the way things are moving, Cameroonians are so much scared that things are getting worse by the day. So we shall be bringing you updates at the end of the special communication here.
And to say there are fears Cameroon's external debt could rise by 420 billion francs CFA and even more if the exchange rate between the CFA francs and the dollars remains the same at this moment. The CFA francs has depreciated due to decline of the euro against major currencies such as the dollars, and experts have expressed concerns that the increasing external debt payment per month could hamper some developmental projects in Cameroon. The details in this report.
Variations in the exchange rate between the CFA francs and dollars is reportedly the cause of Cameroon's rising external debt burden. The situation is said to have worsened since the first quarter of 2022 and has raised the monthly debt payment by at least 3 billion francs CFA.
The assumption which has been carried out before we elaborate our budget was $1 will give close to 594 CFA francs. Actually, it's no more the case. You have gone abroad more than 630 CFA francs. It means that all the debt we have contracted in US dollar, actually, if you want to refund it, it will little bit increase. That is why you have seen that the percentage is close to 11.2% of the debt to be reimbursed.
It is feared if the dollar remains at its current level, additional payments could reach 8 billion CFA francs per month by the end of the year.
As far as we are going to sell all our products on abroad in US dollars or in euro, and then we go and sign contract to get money from those international donors in US dollars, if the situation remains the same, we will not have any choice as what we are facing actually.
And these could have a serious impact on local development.
If the situation remains the same, at times the government will have to do a choice. For instance, abandon some project which has been already yield on the fruit, abandon to give, for instance, to grant, for instance, money for some social sectors, and focus itself only to reimburse that money until the situation drops, and then we'll be able to carry out the project previously abandoned.
The acceleration in recent months of the fall of the euro against the dollar due to the war in Ukraine and the surge in world crude oil prices on the international markets have also contributed in worsening Cameroon's debt situation.
And let's talk health. The 20th edition of the Youth Awareness Campaign, popularly known as AIDS Free Holiday Campaign, has been launched in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Today, the sensitization this 2022 is on the theme consumption kills and makes us vulnerable to HIV and AIDS, and over 650 peer educators will educate their peers on the dangers of drug consumption. The details with Umokosome.
Statistics reveal 60% of drug consumers are youth, aged between 20 to 25 years, and 30% of new HIV-infected cases are youth aged 15 to 24 years. Thus, the place of this year's theme, drug consumption kills and makes us vulnerable to HIV and AIDS. The mission of the peer educators during this 2022 sensitization campaign, launched by the Public Health Minister, Madauda Malashi, this Wednesday, is to reach out to their peers, youth between 15 to 24 years, sensitizing them on dangers of HIV/AIDS, hepatitis, and prevention methods.
So I will encourage them to go and be tested in order for them to know their status. I will advise them that it is not good, that drugs kills and it gives mental disorder.
Thanks to this effort by the First Lady, Chantal Biya, 20 years already, through the African Synergy Against AIDS and Sufferings, and implemented by the peer educators on the field to fight against HIV/AIDS, is yielding some positive results. The peer educators are challenged by the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Monena Futso, to be ambassadors of restless fighters against AIDS.
And we encourage those young people to go and sensitize their peers, because, you know, they are the best to sensitize their peers so that they should have AIDS-free school holidays.
For 3 weeks, therefore, the 650 peer educators from all the 10 regions will make sure that their friends do not become victims during this holiday. They are expected to increase the knowledge of at least 20 million people on HIV/AIDS and preventive methods, 1 million people on dangers of drug consumption, and many others.
Persons who lost their civil status documents during the socio-political crisis in the northwest region of Cameroon have been told to go through the courts in order for the re-establishment of their documents. That was the main message today during celebrations marking the African Day of Decentralization and Civil Status Registration in Bamenda today. The details in this report.
Officials of the Northwest Regional Delegation of Decentralization and Local Development say there has been a paradigm shift in the decentralization process in the region. Speaking this Wednesday in Bamenda, in a ceremony to close the 11th African Day of Decentralization and Local Development and the 5th African Day of Civil Status Registration, presentations pointed to the fact that the process is well on course with devolution of powers from central to local administrations.
Policy of the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development between 2019 and 2021 was to fast-track decentralization. This paradigm has moved ever since to citizen participation.
The burning question of thousands of vital documents lost in the ongoing socio-political crisis was also addressed by the Civil Status Registration Office.
Those who have misplaced the documents, they are supposed to appear in courts in order to obtain court judgment. But I was making an advocacy to court to know that they may be able to have the witnesses, do witness their bed, but may not be able to come to the court because when we talk about court, many people are afraid of the courts.
On a reconforting note, the Regional Assembly presented moves undertaken for a return to peace.
This program, still in the preparatory stage, goes right down to the subdivisional levels and even at village levels to establish peace ambassadors at those levels, because we recognize the fact that we're in a situation of crisis, and for us to get out of crisis, it requires each and every one of us to work at our individual level.
August 10 every year is commemorated as African Decentralization and Civil Status Registration Day.
It is with that report on the African Decentralization Day that we wrap up this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal International. The French edition will be yours at 7:50 p.m. with Alain Gisler Kanga. Up next is Debrief de l'Actualité with Janice Kanga. I will be yours again same time tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.